Jeff, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Salute, pledge.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing and I'll do the invocation. Almighty God, we pray this day for your ever-enduring guidance. We ask you to cloak us in wisdom and fortitude that we may dispense our knowledge and facts intelligently among all humanity of whom we serve. Thank you. I'm looking for agenda approval, additions, and/or deletions.
Chairman, I would approve the agenda and also request to adjourn our meeting today in memory of Mike Schroeder.
I'd like to adjourn today's meeting in memory of Pat Williams.
And I'll take that as a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carries. All right, we're now looking for public comment. Does anybody at this time wish to speak during public comment? Okay. We're right into unagendized report by board members. Chris, you want to start?
Okay. Morning, everybody. Over the last couple of weeks, a couple of things that I did. I tried to get to the Fish and Game Commission on the phone, the State Fish and Game Commission on the phone last week, and because there was so many people that called in, it jammed up the system. They're actually going to do it again, try it again tomorrow. We'll see how that all goes. The reason I wanted to get on that, I think the sheriff sent a letter as well as I sent an email, is they wanted to shut down fishing in the state until the COVID-19 crisis was over. And I think some of those things can be done county by county, and that's where I expressed my opinion about that. Also, LAFCO was online yesterday. We really didn't do a whole lot except pass the preliminary budget, and the rest of the items were going to be left until we can meet whenever that might be again, hopefully in 2 months. And I had a Zoom meeting yesterday with the Westwood Chamber of Commerce. And Jenna, they're going to be, they probably already did get a hold of you, right? They want to do some fixing up of the community center there, and they were hoping that they could maybe get a CDBG grant. And with that in mind, I'm wondering, maybe we could agendize this in the future about making some arrangement with the Westwood Chamber of Commerce about having that building over there and relieving ourselves of that responsibility. So maybe that'd be a topic to talk about for a future agenda. And I think that's all I have.
Mr. Hammer?
I don't have much. I'd like to welcome FCI Furlong to our board meeting. Thank you guys for coming. Pretty much all the stuff that we've been working on, other than the put 825 and 826 into a grant process through the California Governor's Military Council and the bridges, which would be of interest to you guys. We had 12 hours to respond to that, and Larry and Bob did a good job in getting that done. Hopefully we can get going again here in the next couple of weeks, and we can start this 395 effort and all the other stuff that's pending right now.
Mr. Hampton?
Yeah, we were at the transportation meeting yesterday, and we talked about the STP fund, right?
Mm-hmm. All right.
And Richard, I hope that maybe we can work with the city on that deal and maybe get some of that money back to work in where it benefits both the city and the county. The city streets are in pretty decent shape, but we've got commuter roads where city residents go to work on, or out here in the county, they're in pretty tough shape, so maybe work on that. The other thing I want to bring up is, we here in the county, if we have a regulatory position these small businesses that are still in business, let's just, back off, if you will, kind of ease up. The government can go broke and it don't hurt nobody, but these small businesses are all hurting right now. And getting letters from the county offices that they need to comply with different laws and stuff, I'm sure it's a law, but it's, these guys are having a hard time. And and it's a struggle for everybody that's in business. And like I said, that the government can go broke and they just print more money and we go about our business. But when a small business goes broke, it's done. And I'm going to meet with Shane here afterwards to help a couple of these people out that I know that are hurting. So that's all I've got.
Mr. Alwal?
I'd like to thank everybody for showing up today. I know it's trying times sometimes with this COVID-19. It's been kind of a slow to get out and get things done. So I don't have a lot to report other than I'd like to request that we have a meeting coming up when this COVID thing gets over with and have our annual meeting up in Big Valley. So I'd like to see that put on the agenda after the COVID thing goes. We're still going forward with the groundwater advisory meeting. We might be in telemarketing. We'll see how that goes as time gets closer. I'm trying to get that dialed in and figured out for a call and Zoom teleconference kind of a thing. So anyway, I want to thank the IT department, the planning department for working on that. Get that moving. And with that, that's all I have.
Thank you, Aaron. We had attended a city council meeting in this same facility. I want to thank the county for allowing that to happen because the teleconference meetings are important during this time, but nothing takes place of actually meeting to have this sort of discussion. And so this all has worked out perfectly in terms of social distancing for that. So I also like to thank both federal and state correctional institutions for being here to listen when we get to the COVID part of our agenda so that they can hear our county concerns as they are a large percentage of our population and employers. So it's nice to have them here for that. So I also want to point out the Transportation Commission. I'm proud to say we're going to be able to move forward because we hired new staff to finish that process, so we no longer have interim representatives for that. So so that was a good news out of that meeting. So. All right, well then, shall we move on to the consent calendar? I think we'll come back to boards and commissions, but we have quite a meaty consent calendar, so if we move on it first. So gentlemen, what's your pleasure on the consent calendar?
I'd like to request G1, G5, G8, G9.
G1,
5, 8, 9.
anybody else?
I move we pass the rest.
Okay. Handel moves, Hammond seconds. Public comment? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. We take up G1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nancy, how are you today?
Good, how are you?
Good. I just, want to kind of tie into what Jeff was just saying here about going broke and printing money. If we look at we can't do that. I wish we could.
I wish we could too, but we can't.
We have a new angle. Anyway, I was just.
Writing machine?
Good printers now. There's a reason I pulled this to look at this. If you look at on the back page, you have the general fund, and it's really kind of by months and years and whatnot. And our general fund balance is really getting pretty high in the negative balance. I'm just curious on what your thought and feeling on that is, and how do we go about rectifying that, and how does that $2 million in the negative? How is that covered? Got any general fund?
Well, I think
Is it tax dollars or what?
I think that there's just been a lot of transfers that haven't necessarily been made in the auditor's office yet. Julie's just in there. And also taxes, we just did second installment of taxes, but I think everybody's gonna have to realize that I'm not for sure what sales tax are gonna do. I do believe that deadline has been extended as to when the county's gonna get their money, maybe for the third and fourth quarters. So I think we're all just gonna have to hold on to our hats, try to do the best we can do, spend less, mitigate. All of it's out of our hands. It's kind of like what Jeff said. We're kind of like the small businesses of government, you know, and the feds can print more money, and the state can take the feds' money, but will the state give the county any of that money? And that's kind of what we're waiting to see. We are the last notch on that food chain, and right now, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough to finish out this fiscal year.
It is.
There is no easy answer, and our only other source of revenue that was passed by the community, we haven't done any ordinances on, and, you know, we are getting into cannabis season as well, so I don't even know how that's gonna work this year. So that could also, once again, be a loss of revenue.
Right. And I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention, that we're going kind of.
We need money. We need money any place we can get money, and it looks like the streams that we normally get money from could be delayed.
It's worth bringing that back up, Richard, for the next agenda meeting. Please note, in terms of revenue sources, and the one source that we're certain the community has voted for, that we're not taking advantage of, and that's the cannabis.
But I do want to say that the tax collection, for second installment, we're still processing payments. We did collect as much as we did last year at this time. So I do want to tell Lassen County residents, thank you for that. I mean, we do have some small businesses that ask for an extension, and the government gave us the right to extend taxes until June 30th for people who are directly affected by COVID, whether they're a worker or a small business, and we are working with people like that. But for the most part, everybody came through and paid their taxes. That's huge for general fund. So I was really grateful for Lassen County residents for doing that.
I agree. So you gave extensions for their property taxes?
The governor has certain criteria, set out certain criteria for tax collectors to be able to do that. So one is that it has to be your primary residence or a small business that's been impacted. So we are talking to those people, we are working with those people one-on-one in this community to help them out under their circumstances. So yes, that is.
Do you have an idea of the percentage-wise? Just a ballpark?
You know, since taxes were due February 1st and most business people are on top of everything, it's a very small percentage. I think maybe I have 10 that I'm working with right now. But the other thing, loss of revenue, I want you all to be aware of, is that the governor put in place a no collection order, so you can't do anything that adversely affects people or their property. So basically, they canceled the county tax sale. So that's huge. That's a huge source of revenue because that money comes in and it replenishes a whole bunch of other like fees and penalties and back taxes. So that's another loss of revenue for this year, and there's no way that.
Canceled or postponed?
It's 90 days till they lift COVID. So my tax sale was in May 12th through the 15th, and then the reoffers on the 21st. So even June 21st is less than 90 days away, so basically canceled because I would have to start the entire process over again. It's a lot of money. I've already expended my budget money for the year. Another loss of revenue coming in for the county for the end of this fiscal year. Like you say, Aaron, nothing but good news for me. Did that answer your question?
It did. I just wanted, so thank you for your explanation and let us know what's going on. Thank you.
Looking for a motion to receive and file.
So moved.
Second.
All moves, Hammond second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? G5.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I guess I'm a little bit partial to this particular item here, you know, the resource center with RSA approval with foster kids, adopted kids. The wife and I, we took on 2 kids several years ago and raised them, and as of 2 weeks ago, we now have 2 more.
Congratulations.
Anyway,
That's
just want
exciting.
everybody to know that.
Thank you.
And so this RFA, the process, I mean, if the lawyer or lawyers that put this contract together, if they would have used their time, effort, and money putting this together, they could have raised a couple of foster kids themselves. And so, even though I understand the process and the reason why they go through it, this is a very convoluted, thick, and it's a heavy process for anybody that wants to raise foster kids to go through. And I don't know, they say it's for the kids' best interest, but a lot of times it's not. It's just not checking boxes and making the people in charge of it feel good. And there's got to be a better way to go through this process. There's a lot of little ones out there that need help and need a home. And if somebody wants to go through this process to do it, it's a very onerous and burdensome process.
So I do, and I agree with you. The state does put a lot of restrictions on making sure that the foster families that we are approving are the right foster families, and that we are also making sure that the protection of the kid is in their best interest. But I want to clarify that this contract is for the legal representation for the county. So if a family is denied or has any adverse actions as a resource family, this contract, they are our legal representation during that process.
Yes, but at the same time, you get to look at all the boxes you got to check. And, you know, I just wanted to bring this to light. You know, there's a big need out there for foster parents. And to have to go through all this stuff is very onerous.
Right. It's a long process.
And it's a big heartache and process for you guys to go through and get this done too. And anyway, I just think that there could be some better way to do this rather than all the paperwork. I mean, the book you got to go through when you're done. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So, yeah. I just want to get on my soapbox a little bit and make that announcement to everybody. And so anyway, that was my reason for pulling in. I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss for it.
I get it. It's always, when it comes to legal documents, it's always 87 pages long, and it's always takes away from the process that you're actually talking about, which is the process of taking care of children that are desperate need. But we thank you for the effort. Any other questions? Public? All right, I'm looking for an action, a motion to approve agreement and authorize HCAO to execute the agreement.
So moved.
Gallagher moves.
Second.
Hammond seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Oh, sorry. No. Motion carries. G8 then. SB1 road maintenance.
Morning, Larry. Thank you for putting this together. I appreciate what you're doing. One of my big concerns of this is on all these roads that I look at, we're all about paving and chip seal. I also know many roads that are gravel roads that are in dire need of getting an overlay of gravel put on them. Because it's fine during the summer, during the dry months, but as soon as it gets wet and sloppy, it's pretty darn tough to get through. And all we're doing is tearing them up and making it worse. And so I would really like to see some of this money be put toward, get some more gravel on some of these gravel roads people are depending on to get in and out, move freight, move commerce, as well as get to and from their homes.
And we definitely could. What I've done in the last couple of years is in our road operating budget, I've set aside purchasing gravel, and then you put that down with our own sources. So we are proceeding with that work as well. I could put projects together, SB1 or something for gravel work as well. That's all I've been kind of handling that is we've been purchasing I agree, we've got roads all over the county that desperately need gravel.
They desperately need it, and, I mean, a lot of these little chip seals, I mean, they're very short, they're not gonna be a high-speed road anyway, except, probably a lot of people are gonna need them on the short stretches, but at the same time, I mean, there's not a lot of commerce that goes through there, but a lot of gravel roads, at least up in my neck of the woods, and I'm sure even over here too, that there is quite a bit of commerce that goes over that, and if you're shipping cattle or shipping hay in the wetlands, you can't do it, or you have to, trucks get stuck and really make a mess of things. I think it's very important, and I would really like to see this gone back and redone and have some.
The only issue I have, not an issue, but part of the SB1 and project scoping, we have to follow like a pavement management system or some kind of program. So that's why the chip seals rank real high, because you get, for the cost, you get 3 to 10, 15 years of extra service out of your roads. So that's why they rank pretty high. That's not saying we can't try to change it, but
Right.
it's we have to put it out on that, showing the public that we're producing, you know, some future savings or like chip seals or paving.
Well, the futures, I mean, it also goes to the gravel and paved roads. I mean, I realize that Sacramento, the only thing they know is paved roads. Sorry. I realize Sacramento, the only thing they know is paved. They don't know anything about dirt and gravel. Your chip seal is 52,000 a mile, your paved is 800,000 a mile, and I don't know what your gravel is going to do. It's certainly not near that.
No, it's not.
And I think you can get a lot more bang for your buck by switching this up a little bit more, and I think gravel needs to be part of it. Because by your own deal, the paved roads are, you can take them from good to very, a lot of your dirt roads, they're already fair, and in the wet weather, they go to very poor.
Okay, I can definitely try to do another project, whatever direction you guys want to give me.
That's what I would certainly like to see. I'd like to see a little bit broader mixture of stuff, because over half of your roads are dirt and gravel roads anyway.
Very good.
Anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. And, you know, a lot of that goes back to your, on the next one is 8 and 9, or is on G9, where it shows your mileage for your roads. And that's why I wanted to pull that too. You're here so we can talk about that too, or you want to take action on this, or?
I think we could do both at the same time.
Okay. But anyway, so you got your, you know, 56% of the roads in the county are gravel roads, and only 40% are paved roads.
Correct.
And so that's what I'm saying, is that I don't think the parity isn't there, and we need to do that. 'Cause everybody pays gas tax, whether they want to pay road or dirt road.
Correct.
Part of the SB1. And I think we need to make it fair for,
Give me some kind of direction.
Well,
Basically, what I have to follow now is I have to follow our pavement management system. If I don't follow that, I need direction from the board. I
Right.
can't just throw out.
And the pavement management system doesn't just include length or the mileage, it includes usage, right? Like who's on those roads. I mean, we talked about this at transportation and RSVP. We talk about the number of miles of roads, but at the same time, if there's one person using that road, then it doesn't matter the length. If you actually look at it by determination as to how many people are on it, how many taxpayers use that road, that becomes just as important as the actual length of the road. I'm not saying that we shouldn't look at what you're talking about, but I think you look at the totality of the use, which is what the pavement management plan must engender at some point. And so while I don't want to forget our rural residents, I want to point out that the usages on our roads, if we pave a section of road or work on a gravel road somewhere and one resident uses it, then you're wasting taxpayer dollars if there's another road that is not getting the proper usage that is being used by hundreds of thousands of residents in Lassen County. And I want to assume that's what that plan encompasses.
It's part of it, yeah, definitely a part of it. The other part is how can you best use your dollar, you know, your maintenance. You know, if you can do a chip seal for a third of the cost, you try to get, 5, 10 years out of that versus let it deteriorate where you have to pulverize it and repave it. So maintenance and safety, getting the best buck out of your dollars.
Well, the other thing is, if you don't go after this pay money, you're not gonna get anywhere, right? For your payment management.
The SB 1, the project have to be basically approved, the list has to be approved, yes.
Right.
Otherwise, you don't get the money, yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'd rather them go after this money than at least improve the paved roads and not have any money, get any of the SB1 money.
So
I mean,
SB1 is only for paved roads? You can't-
No, you can use it for other activities, but I mean, I have to basically follow some kind of guide. I can't just pick a road, politically, I have to follow like our pavement management system or some sort of guidance on the money we're going is going for the best use.
Right, and I realize that, and that's what I'm getting at, is we can't just be on the pavement. I want to see some gravel roads be put in there too. I'm not here to make discrimination or belong for one road or the other, because I mean, there's a lot of them out there. That's your determination, but I'm saying we need to have.
Well, it's not my
some-
determination, I need direction. I either have to follow like the pavement management system or some kind of system we have, or I need direction. I can't just pick a road. For part of this list, I have to follow. That's it, part of the resolution even states that we follow, a state guideline, which it says, yes, ensure revenues are being used on the most highly priority and cost-effective projects that meet the community's priorities. And then it mentioned that we that we have a system, which we follow the pavement management system. Use the pavement management system to develop the SB1 project.
What's the pavement management system? How does that develop?
It's basically, it's paved roads, but basically every road is surveyed. It looks at your cracking,
No, I understand that. What I mean is who sets the criteria for that?
It's the system. We just basically put the input from the roads and it generates.
So we bought a system or we have a proprietary system, they have an algorithm or something like that?
Right.
You enter it
It's a
as-
software system we have. You put all the data in there and it spells out, these are all you need. If you have $2 million, it says, okay, these are the projects you should be looking at completing.
And where does that, who creates that system? Now, you bought it from somebody, but it's a private company that sets that up? Or
It's
state?
basically no, it's a private company, but pretty much all the counties use the same. It's a statewide system.
And do you have the same thing for gravel roads?
They do not.
So that's completely determination of the department of whoever's in charge of whatever.
Correct.
Well, if you need some kind of direction, I'd like to see at least 20% of this money go, the SB1 money go toward gravel roads. Is that kind of what you're looking for?
Yeah, I need something to go on here.
What do you use now? Do you have any idea?
For gravel?
No.
What I've been doing is, we've been buying 10,000 in the last 3 years. And basically,
A certain tonnage?
yeah.
Okay.
And that's not counting, we have 2 bits we crush in, so we use that gravel as well.
Right.
And basically, we're putting it down as fast as we can.
No, I know.
We haven't hired any out because we do it all in-house.
And how far does a ton of gravel get?
It's on the road.
Yeah, like, I don't know, probably
Not very.
1,000 ton to a mile. If you're doing like a 3-inch lift or something like
So that would be my direction, is that is to 20% of the SB1 money goes to gravel road.
But does that put any of this money in jeopardy though?
that. I don't know. We'll have to submit it and see if they approve it.
Well, and that's Aaron's direction of staff, but that's not
No,
the
no,
supervisor.
no, that was my direction. My suggestion.
So maybe we should bring up G8 separately, because what we're looking for there, if you look at that, the action requested on G8 then would be, the request is to approve the project list and adopt a resolution, but instead what you're suggesting is that we approve the project list minus 20% of the SB1 funds, which would then be set aside for a future list of gravel roads.
I'll have to bring back a new
Yeah,
list.
we don't have enough information to do that.
Yeah, I'll have to bring back.
I
Basically,
question
the
why
list
we
has
do that at
to,
all.
the list has to basically be very specific. So I'm gonna have to come back with a new project list.
Well, wait a second here. What you're suggesting then, and all of the rest of you agree with, is that we take 20% of
No, I'm not
the
suggesting anything, I bet at all, I don't have enough information to make that determination if we take 20% of the.
20% of the SB1.
Well, I don't have that information, neither do you.
How much would that be?
Well, the first original estimate was like 2.2 million for this year. That's gonna be set aside for decrease in gas.
So what Mr. Supervisor Alba is suggesting is that we take $400,000 of the SB1 money that would well, it's not going to pave it, but it's going to chip seal the list of roads that include Diane Drive, Skyline Road, and instead turn that into gravel that we put on gravel roads. Like yet to be determined. See, I don't believe that would be the wise course of action here. I think that the wise course of action is to approve this and to continue or to choose a smaller amount. But I just, that doesn't strike me as to the benefit of the people of Lassen County, the majority of that. Go ahead.
Well, it seems like Larry has a way that he's already been working with to put the gravel on various gravel roads and has a plan for that. And so I think we ought to probably move on with this plan so we get the SB1 money. And then we could ask him to come back to us with a plan to use the gravel that he's been doing, and maybe prioritize some of those roads and get them done in the same manner.
Yeah, I don't want to divert off this and lose some money because we're worried about some gravel roads because, you know, we don't know, like I said, that was my question earlier, if we divert off this, are we in jeopardy losing?
I don't think you'd lose it. Basically, what they would do is probably not approve your project list. And then we'd have to go back
with
and,
Skyline.
so we'd have to go back and revise it.
No, not a wise decision at all.
So I would move pass G8 as written.
Second.
Okay, public comment? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No,
Thank you. Now we should move on to G9 then, we're still there. Anybody have any questions on the resolution certifying county maintained road mileage?
I just want to point out again, 56% of the roads in the county maintains is gravel, 43% are paved. We have a lot of miles and a lot of roads to cover, and minimal people, and you get to do a good job with what you have. And thank you. And here again, I just want to reiterate that just because we have paved roads, that should be all of our focus. The majority of our roads are mileage we have to take care of is gravel roads. And during the summertime, it's fine. And wet inclement weather, they go to pot, just like having potholes in your road, you know, on a paved road. They only last for so long.
Well, understood.
And there's been a lot of deferred maintenance on these gravel roads, and we're gonna have some major problems coming up.
We are. Yeah, like I said, we've been trying the last couple of years of upgrading or doing more projects, and we can continue that.
And you have
This
a
next
funding
budget year,
source
we
for
can
this
start.
SB1, and you better be taking some of it, using on these gravel roads. I mean, I got out there today, but it's coming down.
And what has been helping is the chip seals, by doing those in the SB1, we used to do those out of our operating budget. So if we can use the SB1 funds for chip seals, I'll try to add some more gravel into our next year's budget.
You have a criteria for roads in terms of what gets serviced when, right? I mean, we were just discussing that. You don't just choose this willy-nilly. You don't choose to ignore gravel roads. Am I correct?
No, we try to do both.
Right. So it fits within the budget and the allocations that you have.
Right.
Including the SB1 money, which you took into account when you did up the work, and that the pavement management system took into account. I was going to give you some gallery moment.
If I could ask to have Larry come back sometime in the future, it doesn't have to be right away, but give us a list of the various gravel roads that you plan on doing maintenance of in this year, and find out what the cost of that is going to be, and maybe some kind of plan for the future on going back to, others in future years, so that there's a plan kind of like what you've set up here for the gravel roads at the same time.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was just wanting to reiterate, that the gravel roads have been deferred for many, many years, Larry. You know
Yeah.
that, the road guys know that, and now we have a choice to get some money to get those caught back up, and we're not doing it, and it's very disappointing.
Public comment?
Yeah. Aaron, I'd just like to point out that we are ignoring the dirt roads. We're doing the best we can with what we've got, but I agree with you, we do need to get some material on those roads. And I've been looking at ways to do it. My resources are limited, and we're doing the best we can out there.
I know, we got fewer equipment, we got fewer employees. It's hard. All I'm saying is you have the money
I know,
source,
I get what you're saying.
and we're not utilizing that to its fullest potential for everybody and everything. And it goes back to what Jeff was saying with transportation commission, we gotta get our share of those dollars too, instead of just.
Yeah, I want you to know I'm not ignoring the dirt roads either.
Thank you.
All right, I am looking for a motion.
I move that we pass G9.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, let's go with something a little more closer to all our hearts. Let's talk about first five, and we'll go to that one. I suppose I will take this item since I'm on the first five position. This is discussion of appointing Phoebe Freeman to the position that Anita Osborne resigned. Anita Osborne was a long-term time first five commission member. I want to thank her for her service to the county. The first five commission met telephonically last week and discussed this. There were actually two members, two folks that applied for it, and so I'm happy that the first five commission continues to do its job of home visiting, although certainly that's been affected by the COVID. And also during that meeting, we discussed attempting to find resources for those families that needed them for those things that have disappeared to a degree in the county, like baby wipes and to a degree diapers. So I want to thank, well, we haven't added her to the commission yet, but I want to thank Phoebe for joining the commission, and I want to thank those members that worked very hard to help some of those families that maybe need a little help learning how to be families, and that's the mission and job of First Five. So at this point, I'm looking, well, do I have a comment?
I have a question. You can try to sit on this commission. Do you recommend Phoebe?
Oh, absolutely. She was there before as a ex officio, and adding her to it is certainly going to help the quality of care for children ages 0 to 5 in Lassen County.
With your highly recommendations, and I would make a motion to appoint Phoebe Freeman to the first five.
Second.
All right. Public comment? All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Well, then we will move on to the department reports, I believe. Is Dr. Corber here? Oh, okay. Then we will begin then with H5, which is the public health report from Lassen County Health Officer Dr. Corbett. Thank you for joining me here, Dr. Corbett. If you would
We thought we'd give you an update sort of on what's going on with the COVID-19. I'm not sure exactly how much you recognize that has been done, but we have kept the virus out of Lassen County, which is just almost amazing, because there's very few places in the United States where it's not here. We recently, Public Health Department, working with Plumas County, they had a case over in Chester. And it's the kind of thing that I want you to realize how much we're working on to try to get it done. There was a lady that apparently had been in contact with someone. They did a test on her and she was positive. They sent her to her house, put her in quarantine, and it's been 14 days, and she and the family are all clear today, and that was the end of it because it didn't go anywhere. And that's what we have to work on. Public health is right at the present time in Susanville. There was a driver of Swan who was delivering things to Susanville, and he came down with coronavirus. However, it turns out now that we think, we've contacted Swan to find out that driver was apparently not in Susanville for the past 2 weeks. But we now checking to see if there was a second driver in the truck to be sure that that was there, because in that case, the driver apparently hands a bag to someone who wants to put it in their freezer or whatever they're doing with the food. And it's possible that if that driver really had the disease, which he does, and he was in Susanville, it is possible to transmit the disease from the bag, his hand to the bag to your hand, and someone could do that. So we have to check with everybody who got that, if that's the case. And so today we're checking on that. I'm sure you are aware that there's a few problems that we have in Susanville that we're working on pretty hard. My wife was down at Safeway the other day, and she noticed a bunch of cars that were there from Reno. Now, why they're coming to Reno, I can't really tell you. Some people said it was because our stores are stocked better than in Nevada, but I'm not sure that's the answer. They may know that we're free of coronavirus, and so they're going to try to drive up here to get their food. That may be the case. But that is a little worrisome because they could present the case. You know, one of the things that we need to let people know is that these bugs do not jump, they do not crawl, they will not be transmitted. You guys are doing a beautiful job here because you've got everybody separated 6 feet. Theoretically, if someone had coronavirus, they can't give it to you if they're 6 feet apart. That's why we are very unlikely to get it. However, you can get it. Somebody coughs on your hand, you shake hands, and you got it. You put it up to your face. And that's the kind of thing we're trying to stay away from. But we would like to keep it like they did over there at Lake Elminor. They just put this lady immediately at home. She's then isolated. There's a big difference between what we're doing here, self-isolation, and when we absolutely quarantine someone saying, you stay in the house. We have not had to do that yet because we have no cases here that are positive at this time. I'm sure many of you know, but I was looking at statistics this morning. Los Angeles has 9,000 cases. But all of you know how some of the people who are homeless live in Los Angeles. You get it down there, you can't self-isolate. There's no way. These people cannot do that, and it just spreads extremely rapidly. Lassen County has got a group of people getting together for the coronavirus to look after exactly what we can do to prevent it from being a problem in here. They're doing a wonderful job. They've got everything scheduled and watched, and anything that we need to do specially is already being looked at to see what would happen if we did have a severe problem. We are trying as hard as we can to keep us from ever having a severe problem. We can handle somebody coming in with the disease who gives it to 1 or 2 people. What we cannot handle is somebody coming in here and giving it to 50 people. That's more than we can handle with what we have. We have a problem at the present time that we're still dealing with the prison, the prison out at Furlong. It's a federal prison. And we sent a letter to the federal prison stating, please do not send or transport patients in. We got a notice about a week or so ago that they brought in a busload of people, some of them, one from Pahrump that I know of, Nevada, and several from California. And we sent them this letter saying, please don't bring people in here who have that. The result we got from the letter was more or less, if the courts find them guilty, we're taking them.
But Dr. Corber, I believe the response was that following their policies and procedures, that if the U.S. Marshal delivers to them,
That's correct.
that they're required to take it. But the Federal Bureau of Prisons is not transferring prisoners now.
Right.
So
And the difficulty that we have is, of course, that I have no control over the federal prisons, but theoretically what they should do is you don't bring this is just common sense, you do not bring somebody in from areas of California and Nevada into an area that has no cases. That would not be very sensible. They should leave them there until they have been, quote, certifiably free of the coronavirus, then take them. Because many of them have been in jail anyway for a period of 2 weeks, and you don't have to worry about them. When they brought that busload in, they had 3 sick people. We've since tested all 3 of those, and they are all negative, so we're still all clear.
Well, once again, as I understand it, that was the U.S. Marshal that brought them into them. And we have members of FCI who are along here to listen to our concerns today in order to take that information back to their superiors. So it's good that you bring this up.
I was just trying to give you the ideas of what we're trying to deal with what's going on, and that was one of the problems that we had, because they still have the attitude that if they have to take them, they do, but no one is clearing them first, which really should be done before they're brought into the county. In the United States, there have been a couple of places where they've really had problems in the prison system. The prison system is a terrible place to have coronavirus because you cannot separate these people. They eat in one place ordinarily, and they are very close to each other. I think one of the reasons why Lassen County...
I was going to say, if I could speak for us for a moment, then what I'd say is Lassen County is asking that they include in their policies and procedures that any transfer of prisoners include some form of screening in the future before they arrive here. Would that be a good?
That would be perfectly clear if they're clear before they come in here. Then there's no problem at all. And that's one of the things that we need to work with them on to try to get that clarified, and we're trying to do that at this time. Okay, because Californians did pretty well. They immediately said, when we asked them to do that, please don't send us people that could possibly have it. They have not said they would do that, and they've been very, very good at that. And they've got a program set up there for that as to what they're going to do. I think I told you Los Angeles has 9,000 cases. The next closest county is down in San Diego with 1,800. So there's a big difference between that. New York City, when they had this huge problem that they have, many of us think that the biggest problem and the reason that they have such a terrible problem is the means of transportation in New York City is the subway or their means of transportation. These people stand shoulder to shoulder when they're in there, and this is one of the reasons that it just spread so quickly in that area, because they had no other way for transportation when that happened. don't know if any of you have any questions or whatever, but I want you to know that we're working as hard as we can to keep it out of this county as long as we possibly can.
Mr. Gallagher?
Dr. Corver, I'd like to thank you for all you're doing, especially your advisements, because I've had a lot of questions from various constituents, and I really appreciate it. They're very timely, and we appreciate that we still have nothing here. We want to keep it that way, so congratulations, and for all the hard work of everybody.
Well, it's not just the health department. I want to tell you that there's a large group in the community that's working on this, with the sheriff's department, with the police department, with everyone that's involved with this, and they really have been on top of this and doing quite a good job. I'm really pleased with how they handled this, but I'm very pleased we don't have it too.
And a couple of us are following your advisement for a face mask, so.
Right. That's to protect you from getting it.
That's right.
At the moment. But sitting 6 feet apart, and you know, Susanville, we're so fortunate
That Susanville has a bunch of people here that are really cooperating. They're really working hard at doing this, and they're doing it everywhere I see. You go to the bank and they've got you separated, you go to this, every place that's doing it is doing a good job, and that is going to keep it from spreading easily, because if someone comes in and they give it to you, you won't spread it to anybody else until we can catch that and corral it. And that's what our job is, to corral it before it gets out of control.
Had one more thing. Dr. Corver, the other thing I wanted to point out is I got a message from one of my constituents in Westwood, and that Schwann's driver was also in Westwood, not just in Susanville, but went up to the Westwood area as well.
Yes, but the whole question is, this morning we were told that that driver was not in Susanville. We're not positive that he might not have had 2 places where, or 2 people as a driver, so we're still working on it. That's just today. So we haven't got that completely figured out yet.
What I find interesting, though, is they're sending emails to their customers and saying that the driver that came to your house was found to have the COVID-19 virus.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting.
Well, that's, all those things at the moment, that's one of the things that we have to be very careful with this, is
Trying to make sure that we don't get on the wrong information and going after the wrong thing at the same time. I think we're doing really well in Plymouth County, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to send out another notice to the people here, exactly what we mean by self-isolation. Self-isolation in Susanville is entirely different from self-isolation in San Francisco. In San Francisco, if you're self-isolating, you've got to be at home because your front door is sometimes 7 and 8 feet from somebody else's door. Out here, if you're living out in the country and you've got a few acres or something, there's no reason you cannot be outside. There's no reason you can't do the things that you need to do, because that's still staying away from people. What we don't want is a bunch of people traveling from one area to another, bringing it back and forth. That's what we're trying to stay away from. So if you're outside, there's nothing wrong with that. We're trying to make that clear to people that we are not telling you that you have to stay in your house. That is not what we're interested in. You can be certainly doing other things in Lassen County. It's entirely different. In fact, they had a meeting down with as you probably are aware, they had a meeting saying they were going to stop fishing in California and one thing or another. And they had a commission meeting, and apparently it got wild because they were trying to do it by internet and one thing or another, and they had to close the meeting. But the Fish and Game, they were sensible what they were trying to do. What they were after was, they were asked if the county wanted to close it because they thought the people were too close together, could they do it? Which was entirely different, because many people thought that they meant, no, you can't do it anywhere in the state of California. That was not what they were after. But they will eventually get that straightened around. And it's like in Susanville. You know, I went fishing a couple weeks ago. The closest person to me was 7 miles. That's pretty well self-isolated.
I just want to thank Dr. Corver and everybody else that's doing this.
Well, the people to thank is really the entire Susanville for cooperating as well as they have. We've had very few problems in which we've had to say, please don't do that. Almost everyone has just bent over backwards to take care of this, and it shows, because Susanville has kept it out so far.
Well, and I believe that at some point we could face a positive result. We don't know, what the future holds, but this Schwann's driver is a fine example of it. I'd like to thank our community partners at FCI Harlong and at CDCR for sending representatives here, because in the end, when or if we have a positive, it's going to be important that communications are clear and policies and procedures are followed. And so the main problems I've heard from my constituents involve rumors that almost always turn out not to be true. And the only way that you face down rumors is with true information, with fact. And so, thank you, Dr. Porter.
Yes, one other thing I wanted to clear about the rumors thing. I was hearing something that someone was saying that if you went to Reno and got tested, that there's coronavirus in Susanville because people are going to Reno or someplace. Absolutely false. If you live in Lassen County and you go to Reading, the report goes to Lassen County. We will know immediately. It's the same way. People from Greenville come to Susanville to work. If they come to Susanville, we do a test in Susanville. Greenville County gets that report. We do too, eventually, but it goes to the Greenville because the public health has already worked that out so that all this information is spread from one place to another, so we keep on top of it as best we can. So it's a pretty good system that is set up.
And in the end,
And hopefully we've already worked with the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department. If we get a positive, then the difference from self-isolation and quarantine is quarantine you don't leave. Then you are house controlled. And they're to help us under those circumstances. It's already set up if we need it. So far, let's hope we don't need it. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, and in the end, we have paid the economic price and continue to pay. It would be foolish not to accept health benefits. So I know that it has been difficult on the citizens of Lassen County, but I hope that they remain patient as we work our way through this process. Thank you. Now we'll return to regular business, showing A1 industrial disability retirement. Is that you, Richard?
That would be me. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you. Good morning. So H1 is an effort. There's several action items being presented for your consideration. Get caught up with that. Thank you. From time to time, we have county employees who we regrettably must be in a position to have file an application for, or the employees themselves may file an application for an industrial disability retirement. That requires that certain processes be adopted by this board for determination of those industrial disability retirements, how we get to the conclusion before we submit CalPERS. And the last resolution we had on file dealing with that was from the 90s. And so in reviewing those resolutions, we concluded that we need to update our processes, and that contemplates a couple things. One is to establish through a resolution the process by which the governing body, you folks, make a determination as to an industrial disability retirement, whether it should proceed or not. Secondly, whether you vest with the incumbent county administrative officer certain administrative authorities to file the application to get going once it's been determined by the governing body to file other documents thereafter and the like. The two resolutions that you have in front of you do precisely that. They set out a due process procedure for the determination by the governing body. There's been a number of legislative changes as well, some case law interpreting those legislative changes. Quite specifically, if there's a contested application for industrial disability retirement, That determination must be made by this governing body with an administrative law judge presiding. This is by law, nothing I conjured up, akin to the foster legal representation contract you were commenting on previously, Mr. Outlaw. It's been established by state statute and case law. Nevertheless, it's complicated, and the resolutions you have before you are really template resolutions, if you will, that have been adopted by many counties and are recommended and accepted by CalPERS and the courts as well. So, thirdly, there is another item in the packet, and that is an agreement with the Office of Administrative Hearings for the purpose of employing an administrative law judge to preside over that kind of contested process with you folks, should we find ourselves in one. It's a standard form template contract, and it's required that we have one with the Office of Administrative Hearings prior to employing an administrative law judge for that purpose. So three things: 2 resolutions, both very template in form, and third is an agreement with the Office of Administrative Hearings for the employment of a administrative law judge. Happy to answer any questions.
Why do we have to have a contract? Why do we have to pay the Office of Administrative Hearings?
We have to have a contract with the Office of Administrative Hearings because they won't send an administrative law judge unless we do. We have to have an administrative law judge to preside over a contested application for industrial disability retirement because the law requires it.
So we're on the hook again, have to pay more.
Right.
And it's just like PERS, there again, you know, the band right with PERS, you know what I mean, which, they're the ones that's costing us because they're, as Richard says, you know, it's an experiment in social engineering. They're not invested properly to get returns for us, so we have to keep paying more and more to PERS. I mean, it's just silly that we have to keep paying. I mean, when is the state going to step up and take care of some of the stuff instead of just shuffling it down on us and talking to Andrew and how broke we get? We're just going negative. When are we going to get that new printer? I mean, it's just. So my question is, what happens if we don't approve the contract for the Office of Administrative Hearings?
Then we don't have anyone to preside over the administrative hearing. Then we can't approve when CalPERS won't approve an application for industrial disability retirement. And there you have it.
It's contested, right?
Yes. And we hope to not have to go through the contested process. We hope that the employee would agree to the facts essentially that would come to a hearing here, but we have to be prepared for the possibility that it will. And that's my job, is to make ready for such possibilities with you, so that if it comes to pass, you're in as defensible a position as possible, Mr. Supervisor.
Do we have to pay this $48,000 whether we use it or not?
No. Well, I'm hopeful we won't have to use it at all. I'm hopeful that if we do end up in a position of having to use it, that it certainly doesn't cost that kind of money. That's the top end of the agreement, by the way. I expect it would cost considerably less for a few-hour hearing by one administrative law judge. I can't imagine that costing $48,000, sir.
So what's the administrative law judge across the street from here?
Well, one's an administrative law judge and one's a judge of a court of law. They are entirely different things. Administrative law judges out of the Office of Administrative Hearings typically are experienced in a narrow area and hear pretty much just those kinds of cases, are well skilled in presiding over these kinds of applications and participating with governing bodies, then rendering a findings of fact and conclusions of law in a manner that is acceptable to CalPERS in the county. So I don't know if I answered your question or not.
You kind of, so I guess my next question is then, are these administrative law judges, or are they just like the PERB board?
No,
I mean, as far as playing favorites?
No, I know exactly what you're referring to, and I don't necessarily disagree with your opinions there, but my opinion on that issue doesn't matter. The question is are the administrative law judges biased? That's the question?
Yes.
That's not our experience. I mean, the limited experience we have, we get one assigned to us if we contract with one. Ultimately, the decision on whether to be granted or not is yours. You folks are if there is a contested hearing on a contested application, it would be your determination. They preside over to make sure the law is properly applied, but ultimately the conclusion would be yours.
Any other comments? Questions? I am looking for, there's a bunch of actions here.
Yes, sir, I apologize. It's items 1, 2, and 3 that I would be asking for approval of. Item 1 is the adoption of a resolution. Item 2 is the adoption of a resolution. And item 3 is the approval of a contract.
So moved.
Second.
Gallagher moves and second. Public comment? Please.
Do we do those resolutions independently or if we do them both together? I mean, I just, we can do it at the same time or?
I presented them in a group because, to my way of thinking, it didn't seem to make much sense to do one and then not the other.
Okay, that's fine.
They don't require a roll call though.
No.
Then I call question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Well, we are close here. Normally, at some point here, we would call a recess, but I think we can finish the items in front of us still, unless somebody requires. Then we'll move on to H2, ratification COVID-19 meeting policy, and telecommuting policy. H2 is...
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, H2 on the agenda is identified as policy ratification of the COVID-19 leave policy and the telecommuting policy. In your packet, it looks like H2 is really the item that should be accompanying H3, and what's in your packet as H3 is the policy that we're seeking ratification of, for policies. And so...
So on the agenda, you switch H2 to H3.
Right.
So, just to clear it up, so we're going to take up ratification of COVID-19 leave policy and telecommuting policy first.
Sounds good.
Great. Okay. And who's taking that item?
Bob's going to skip mine.
Bring it, Bob.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, if you recall, we were here in front of you a few weeks back, and there was discussion about policies that will be coming as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, in particular policies related to telecommuting some staff, and then also implementing the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, FFCRA, that was adopted by Congress and approved by the President, and that's what you have in the COVID-19 leave policy, is an effort to deal with and implement the new emergency paid sick leave and extended FMLA leaves that were approved by the federal government. So I don't know if you have any questions. They are essentially on the COVID leave policy. They are simply implementations of federal law for which we have little discretion. And we have some discretion, but very minor in terms of implementation. And as these things roll out, we are receiving more input, more positions, if you will, being taken by the federal government on some portions of this. So really, our discretion is evaporating over time as they take more positions. And so that's the COVID leave. The telecommute policy relates to, employees who, and it's a voluntary process. This, by the way, the telecommute policy is a policy that anticipate will remain beyond the COVID-19 pandemic. It will remain on the books. It contemplates for those staff that want to, and for those staff that department heads believe it's productive for, and or appropriate for, and or desirable to have telecommute, to do so, but then only after the approval of the CAO and the department. So it's a voluntary thing. Employees don't get assigned to work at home. They have to want to, but then it also has to be in the county's best interest. So I don't know if I answered your question.
No, that was my question, was the telecommute policy, was it going to sunset or not?
And it's not,
Right.
it's not planned to. One point that I'd just like to add to the discussion, there's an interesting exemption allowable in the federal law that we're complying with here that allows the exemption of first responders from these leave policies for several reasons, not the least of which is fairness, and we probably think that somebody's going to realize what they did and change that legislation. We included our first responders to be eligible for this leave, even though it's not currently required under the law. So that's one minor distinction, and it does, of course, all sunset from the leave policies of the Senate.
One other interesting distinction between what we always understood FMLA to be and what we now know the extended FMLA law to include is FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act, was a job protection statute that said if you suffer from a serious health condition and you're a public employee or employed by one of the covered employers, that employer can't take action if you're within the 12-week period of your protection under the law. In other words, the employer can't make you go away just because you suffer from a serious health condition. Seems fair. There was no requirement that the county pay you or that the employer pay you during that 12-week block of time if you didn't have any leave to cover it, sick leave, vacation, whatever. But under the new law, under EFMLA, if you qualify, you're entitled essentially to 12 weeks of pay. There's some questions about whether that's at full rate or 2/3 rate, but it's a departure from the job protection statute that we'd always known as FMLA to now what we know as job protection plus pay under EFMLA.
Questions, comments? Public?
So, Mr. Chairman, one thing I might point out, I'm sorry to interrupt, is that this legislation came on exceptionally fast. This legislation required rapid implementation. It required introduction to the departments so that they could correctly memorialize on timesheets in the middle of a pay period when it became effective and how to do that for qualifying employees. It required working with the folks at the auditor's office to introduce and effectively administer this to a payroll process midstream, mid-pay period. And I guess all I'm saying is those folks worked hard. They really did work hard, and with Regina and Melinda in HR as well. And so, hats off to them. Thank you.
All right, with that, I'm looking for a motion to ratify the policy.
So moved.
Second.
Alba moves, Gallagher seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now we'll move on to contract amendment with Prentice Long, PC, pertaining to continuing duties of the county business office.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The item H3, which is in your packet listed as H2, really is a proposed amendment to an agreement that already exists between the county and Prentice Long. If you recall, Prentice Long is, Margaret Long in particular, is doing the CPS cases. She's been doing the CPS cases since I lost Ms. Rios at the DA's office. Wah, 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 wah. Sorry. I recruited. I've not found anyone I find acceptable. She had big shoes to fill. I'm not content with what I'm seeing. I continue to desire to use Prentice Long. They provide a good service. The agreement that we have with, and by the way, I would say, and perhaps Ms. Longo can confirm this, but CFS is quite happy with the services of Prentice Long. I see her agreeing to that proposition. Thank you. The agreement that we had with Prentice Long goes through to and including June of this year. The amendment contemplates that that remain in effect. Okay? But the financial limit on the agreement was $50,000, and that was short-sighted on my part. We have spent that and have touched beyond, and so the amendment really deals with the financial aspect of it, but I'm within my appropriation and I require no, or will ask for no, amendment to my budget because I'm working within it. And so we also added in some minor amount of money for legal support for the Public Guardian's Office. They found themselves needing that, and that's a much smaller amount. We negotiated a flat rate per month of $2,000 for essentially unlimited legal support for the Public Guardian's Office, which is frankly pretty good. And that's with someone who is quite experienced in public guardian matters. He's employed at Prentice Long. So I'm happy to answer any questions about this. I expect that, again, this essentially takes us to the end of this fiscal year. My budget will deal with the amount that's being requested, and then I expect I'll be back before you shortly after the turn of the fiscal year, maybe even before then, to contemplate a new agreement, probably not another amendment. Happy to answer any questions.
Please.
On number 2 of your whereases, Bob, to increase the maximum payable amount by $100,000, $100,000 for 2 months?
No. That's why I said that I undershot the amount of the agreement. And that's a great question. The initial agreement was from, I want to say, January 1 of 18 until June, maybe even 18, is there attached to June 3rd, to the end of June of 2020. And that was only in the amount of $50,000. As I go back and look, there's no way, and we've spent more than that in getting the CPS representation. So now essentially I'm asking for the contract to deal with the amount beyond $50,000 that we've already spent and will get us through the end of the fiscal year. So I think that that will probably be in the neighborhood of $60,000 or so, and then the $2,000 per month for about 3 months. So $65,000 or so, $68,000, somewhere in that neighborhood, and $100,000 was a round number to put on there. I don't even remotely expect I'm going to get close to that.
Right, I guess my question, is just a matter of word semantics, but instead of increase the maximum amount payable to $100,000 instead of by $100,000?
No, it would be by $100,000 because the total amount paid under the agreement is, so we pay Prentice Long $6,000 or $6,500 a month for the CPS representation.
Right.
Okay? And if you take that and multiply that by the 12 months that took up 2019, what do you get? 12 times 6 gets you $72,000, okay? And then you add this year as well, the 6 months of this year, what do you get? Another 6 at 6, that's another 36, call it $38,000 or thereabouts. And you add that to the 72, you're over 100, and then you're adding in $2,000 a month for the public guardian representation. Again, it's
I see where you're at, I see where you're at now.
okay.
So you're looking at a year and a half.
Absolutely.
Okay, I got you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And again, you had already approved 50, but that 50 probably got me from the January 1 of 19 till what? I don't know, maybe May, June, July, somewhere around there of last year. I'm trying to have some contractual record for what was spent since then, and what I'm hoping to get us through to the end of this fiscal year. But that's really not the question I was hoping you'd ask, Mr. Elbaugh.
Sorry, that's what really stuck.
Is that the end of your questions, though?
Well, that was the biggest one on the first page.
Okay.
The second thing is what, I know you've done the public guardian in the past.
Yes, sir.
Are you still going to be involved in that? or-
I am. I'm wanting to be involved in that. I'm wanting to be consulted on all of those matters because I like to keep my hand on the tiller, as it were. And yet, with the difficulty in finding a replacement deputy county counsel of the quality of life of which we lost, Ms. Rios, and the other demands of the office, it's difficult to be involved in it all, sir. Did I answer your question?
You did. And then I guess my last question I had is where are you at with finding a replacement, or are we?
I recruited, and again, I didn't like what I saw. I interviewed. We had someone we were hopeful for. We were in the final stages of negotiation, and in the end, this person, who really was the only acceptable candidate in a list of 4 or 5 or 6 lawyers, didn't want to come for the money that was offered and that we could afford. And the song was the same, my friend. We didn't pay what we needed to be able to get that top talent. And I don't want to accept anything less. And I don't think you should either. But do you have another question? Because I'm interested. It's not the question I thought you would have asked.
Really?
Yeah.
Now we're going to take guess. What population is this money being used on in our county?
Very disadvantaged population. The children who need protection. Children who are in situations from which they must be removed. Children who, through no fault of their own, find themselves needing, and regrettably, this must happen from time to time, where government steps in to care for kids that can't otherwise care for themselves, and apparently aren't being cared for through other persons as well. Can I answer your questions? Now, Mr. Outlaw is wondering what that other question should be.
I am.
We all are now.
And I have from time to time been gigged by Mr. Outlaw about certain details of proposals that I put before the board, and so I intentionally made an error on this one in hopes that he and I must confess I'm a bit disappointed that he did not. You would note that under item number 1 on the proposed amendment, it says that the contract be amended to have a date of June 31 of 2020. There aren't 31 days in June, sir. So I would ask that the amendment be June 30. So,
all right, I'm looking for a motion to approve the amendment to the contract with the amendment that Mr. Burns just mentioned.
thank you.
32nd?
Yes, to June 30th.
June 32nd.
So I'm looking for that motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Hammond moves, Gallagher seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We saved the best for last. Lassen County's district attorney. Deputy district attorney 4 or 5 positions.
Yes, thank you, gentlemen. As in your packets indicate, I am asking to unfund a current position that's now vacant and move the allocation to fund another position that's on our books, but it's not currently filled. It's the deputy DA level 4 position. I have a vacancy. I've recruited, as a good segue from Mr. Burns, it's incredibly difficult to recruit with competitive wages in rural counties. And it's not just in Lassen County, it's something that rural counties face throughout the state. We're just not competitive with our pay. I did find a candidate who is interested. She's applied, she's accepted. She is coming from another district attorney's office. She's done with the city. She wants the rural lifestyle, but I can't, even at filling at a level 4 position, she's taking a significant pay cut to come here. So recognizing that I can't bring in another entry-level position, I have myself, and then I have 2 other deputies with each with less than a year prosecutorial experience, not myself excluded from that, of course. I can't bring in another entry-level position. I don't have the time to train. I need somebody who can walk in and pick up files that first day on a felony level and make a court appearance and know what they're doing, and this will help me effectuate that goal. So there should not be any hit incurred to the general fund for this fiscal year. The position would not be filled until around June, sometime maybe middle of June. I'll have 2 full months, 2.5 months of salary savings at that time. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'm hoping for your approval.
Mr. Alba.
How will this affect your budget going forward, though? I mean, will you still be able to stay within your current budget is moving forward, or are you going to have to expand it quite a bit, or what's your thought?
I would anticipate, we are doing, Michelle and I are working together diligently on our budget. We are doing what we can to incur projected savings for the next fiscal year to compensate for the increase in salary portion that will most likely, we will have to ask for.
Any other comments? Public?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Gallagher moves, Hammond seconds. Public comment, oh, I already did that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Mr. Egan, do you have any information for the Board of Supervisors?
Mr. Chairman, I attended the Transportation Commission as 3 of you did. Subsequent to that, and the commission made one of their allocations for their discretionary funding. There was a split vote. I understand that some of the supervisors may want to visit the issue of working with the Transportation Commission to try to change that. I recognize that. In fact, I appreciate it on a lot of levels, but I think that's a board level direction that ought to be given if that's the desire of the board as opposed to just a couple supervisors. So,
If I understand what you're suggesting then is what you would like is for the Board of Supervisors to direct their supervisors as commissioners to attempt to take a purportedly discretionary allocation and use that for gravel on Alba Lane. Is that the suggestion that you're making?
No, it's not. No, the suggestion that I'm making is if it's the direction of the board to direct me to work with the city, I think is one of the suggestions, to try to alter that, or to do something else, that I think that should be a direction of the entire board rather than a minority of the board, so that everybody's on the same.
Well, the Board of Supervisors, for the entire time that purported discretionary allocation is made, up until this year, has made a unanimous allocation, as far as I can tell, that money, which was intended for the city under the federal guidelines and the federal act that was made, that go to the city as is proper, and that the county already received a portion of the RSTP fund, and they use that on whichever gravel or paved road they choose.
And since there's a disagreement about that.
There wasn't from the commission.
Then what I guess I'm looking for is clarification and direction from the board.
I was under the impression the city wanted to work with the county on how that money was distributed.
Right, as long as...
I think that's what Richard's getting at.
Right, as long as
Yeah.
both allocations were discretionary and were workable, and I'm certain that the city commissioners, well, I'm not certain of that because they certainly can make their own determinations, but that's not what we're talking about here. In that allocation, one part is purportedly discretionary because of the way in which the federal government and the state allocate that money. And what Mr. Egan is suggesting is that because of that, the county take advantage of it to take a share which has historically and through intent gone to the city and use it for the county's purposes. Now, if there were a moment where all of that money were open to some sort of discussion, then I suppose we could do that. But that's not the case. So that's my point. But that's not on the agenda either, so.
Yeah.
It's not on the agenda, maybe we can put it on the agenda, Richard. if-
Well,
If
I'm-
you wanted to, or we can just,
I'm fine either way. I see that there is disagreement or at least different views on this board, not the Transportation Commission, on this board about how we ought to approach our relationship with the Transportation Commission. And I'd like for that to get resolved at this board before I get direction from multiple supervisors to go in different directions.
I think we need to agendize it so we can talk about it and put it up for discussion on.
Well, I hope that those supervisors that are county supervisors, but also have representation in the city, are going to remember that representation and perhaps remember that they answer to both city and county constituents. That's what I would hope. And I'm certainly happy to have that discussion. But again, what I would point out to county supervisors is that the city of Susanville sits inside the county, and that its residents need to be represented by this board and not just the one county supervisor that happens to have only constituents inside the city of Susanville.
I have constituents both in the county and the city. Dave.
Yeah, I'm aware.
And, you know, unlike, I'm not going to say it, I'll say it a different way, because if I said it one way, you'd be really pissed. But if you go outside of the city streets are basically in good shape, and the county roads are suffering. And that money should have been split instead of just all going to the city.
We spent how much money on Skyline Extension, which sits in the county? You know,
It'll probably be soon in the city because they're going to annex anything. So don't, you know, be real about that too. But that money should have been split yesterday instead of been all allocated to the city.
And this is the difference in views that is ripe for a new agenda item, not a national board.
Exactly. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burner.
Thanks for keeping us on track.
And I look forward to it.
The only other item I have is that we're looking, we'll be sending out budget letters to departments for next year's budget, and no surprise to anybody, that's very uncertain with times going on. We'll be probably looking at alternate budgets for departments to present with reductions. That's all I have.
Thank you. With that, this meeting is adjourned.